At the pace that he did, we are on board with Lando Norris, whose main rival now. He's now third in the points battle. Alexander Albon with that win yesterday, moving up to second position. He is 30 points behind George Russell, as we have 4 lights, 5 lights in Sochi. And for the second time this weekend, we're underway for the sprint race. Good getaway for Fuoco, immediately trying to get through. He can't, that force, though he might be able to. So much more speed from Antonio Fuoco to go from third to first immediately. But we haven't got to the braking zone yet. It could all be about to change. Lorandi going on the attack. We've got Russell on the outside there. Lorandi won't make the corner, straight off the road. Fukuzumi as well. Fuoco's gone off as well in the background there. Latifi's in the mix, and it was all over the road in multiple directions. I'm not really sure who's meant to be the rightful race leader there, but battling for the race lead, Ray Fukuzumi has taken it back. And then we've got Latifi in second place, and he is followed by Alessio Lorandi in third. Russell is in fourth. Oh, he hit him! Lorandi's hit him and spun around. Double contact to remove the driver, second and third, and we've got Albon racing to freeze now as they go through the first part of the lap. That contact removing Lorandi, who is out along with Latifi.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. This is always what happens on the first lap. Always got to be aware of what's going on around you, and this is always what's going to happen. These guys are just racing themselves and are so close. Just outbrakes himself, straight into the back, and out they both go.
Simple as that. First time starting from the front row. This is what it looked like from the championship leader. Just the difference and a bit of a mess.
This is the cold tyres and the slipstream in effect that comes into play. You're going to lose all your grip, but sometimes you've got to be aware of that.
Unsurprisingly, the safety car has been deployed. And Latifi, second yesterday, had got up to second in the race today, but he goes no further, and Lorandi, I think, has already been over for a word. Big opportunity for him today, but he's understandably dejected as he walks away.
Of course you're going to be. Again, when it's sort of out of your control, that's really a frustrating thing to have. But you've got to bounce back. You've got to sort of put it behind you. Unfortunately, that is the situation. So you've got to be strong when these things happen and bounce back.
So the safety car has been deployed, but Mailander at the head of the field once again. And they wait for the field led by Ray Fukuzumi, the Honda junior driver. There he is. Did manage to maintain the lead, but there were so many cars off the road at turn 1. The big question, first and foremost, is did they rejoin safely between the polystyrene bollards? If they didn't, they're going to be slapped with a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, well, I think they definitely rejoined safely because they were actually quite a long way ahead of the rest of the pack, and then they did actually try to back themselves up. Now, for me, sometimes it's always a thing, well, they should lose something for going off the track, but if you just go through the bollards and you slow down and you get the pack back together again, you've still actually gained the advantage. So it'd be interesting to see if there is anything that they would do there at the stewards.
If ever a turn needed a gravel trap, eh?
Exactly,
turn
got
2
it.
Here.
Those good old stony things we used to have.
The roof lights have failed on the safety car, so if you're thinking the lights are out and they're going to come in immediately, don't worry. Alessio Lorandi was slow off the line. Look at that getaway Fuoco in the red car, got immediately alongside the pink card and straight into the lead, but that was not to last. Look at George Russell as well there on the left-hand side, and this is where it got very messy indeed into turn 2.
Yeah, and brilliant again. They were just a breath, and again, you can just see they all really can't turn in because they're all on the outside, and because of that, that is why they would do that easy route out of it. So as you say, the guys on the outside have no way of getting onto the inside of the circuit because everyone else runs that little bit wide. So always going to be a situation of having difficulty of trying to put yourself in the right place to actually stay on the racetrack itself.
So Norris trying to make his way through, and he was trying to get through. Look at the cars absolutely everywhere. 17th in the order at the moment. He tried to go around the outside. There was no room for him though, and he will just try and give it everything today over the AstroTurf and manage to avoid the mess ahead of him.
Yeah, because he actually did well going around the outside there, but when he went on that AstroTurf itself, you can see he lost the drive. He's on it once again, and again he's just losing that momentum that you need.
This is Artem Markelov making a few positions at the start. This is the rundown for the first braking zone. And how close is he to Merry? Very close to Merry indeed.
I think they kissed rims there, so I think he's okay because the front wing looks as if it's still okay.
Tyre on tyre contact, so they're all right there rather than losing the front wing. And Fuoco, I think, will be slightly aggrieved. This is the reason that we're under the safety car, if you're just tuning in.
It's mine, idiot! Or Morandi, sorry. What, man?
So Latifi, angry at the wrong driver, then corrected himself, but understandably furious because the Dams has amazing pace around this circuit this weekend. That's a chance of victory gone.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's just one of those situations. This is what racing is all about. But when it's not anything to do with you, that's where those frustrations even are a bigger situation for these drivers to sort of handle sometimes. But as I said, it's happened. He's got to move on for it. He's still got 2 more races to go.
We're racing again in Sochi. The green flag is out. Fukuzumi taking us back to racing conditions. The 2 teammates, Makino and Markelov, look very, very close together there in the battle for the final point. But it's a good restart, exactly what Fukuzumi needed. There we have the Russian times going wheel to wheel into turn 2. And Markelov not exactly being friendly to his teammate there. Both of them race winners so far this year. We've had 10 race winners so far. This is the 22nd race of the season, and Markelov stays ahead.
Yeah, he's actually been quite smart, even on the first start. He didn't sort of get himself into too much trouble. Was quite lucky when he sort of had that little clash with the other cars around him. But again, on the restart, really did do another good job himself. Good job, and he's putting himself in a good position because we know how strong he can be in a race situation.
Luca Giotto getting past Nico Kari. Aitken trying to do exactly the same thing, and he does. Remember, this is Kari's first ever Formula 2 round. He's been playing his trade in GP3 for the earlier part of the season. Still with the same team, that's MP Motorsport, but he's lost a couple of places there.
Yeah, and Alex Albon as well. You know, he's in, 5th place at the moment, so that's a really good situation for him.
We need to get rid of Nirey as soon as possible.
So Russell getting the word from his engineer on the radio. He's half a second away from his former GP3 teammate, Fukuzumi, who's done very nicely leading this race. Remember, he has not finished in the top 5 places ever in a Formula 2 race. He's looking to put that right, but he knows how quick his rival is. He finished 3rd last year in GP3. George Russell won it. Remember, Russell as well is our points leader, and he's ahead of his closest rival. That's Albon in 5th place.
Yeah, and he's looking good. That car looks very comfortable, very grippy for him to be able to shoot past, I think, in probably the next couple of laps, maybe sooner, to get in the lead. And once you're in the lead, of course, everything's going to be clean air in front, and you can then start to sort of egg out every single sort of corner, a little bit of extra speed, and get yourself in a comfortable situation where you can then control the race.
He is in a DRS zone, or at least he was a few seconds ago, but DRS has not been enabled yet. Unsurprisingly, race control are going to look at the crash between Latifi and Lorandi, and Lorandi will, I imagine, get a grid drop for Abu Dhabi, the final round of the year. Sergio Sette Camara, a driver who's been on pole this season. He's been a race winner in Formula 2 before, but never with Carlin, and that's really surprising given the amount of times we've seen him in the top 5 this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, he's been very consistent, hasn't he, actually, over the year, and there's really been a bit of a thorn in the side for Lando Norris because he has done a very good job.
So Norris, he's got 2 cars ahead of him. He's got Kari on the left-hand side, and then he's got Galeo, and straight through turn 1. Wasn't a lot of room, was there, Johnny?
There wasn't, but again, those other 2s were fighting each other, and it just opened the door for Lando there to get through. So really sort of thought about it and put himself in exactly the position he needed to get 1 place.
Russell beginning to use more of the racetrack than Fukuzumi ahead. He's looming large in his mirrors, and Fukuzumi, the Honda Junior driver, who's got the Mercedes Junior driver behind him, and that will be getting louder and louder. Fukuzumi will know, and he's slightly wide there. You can just see the difference in confidence when they went through the apex of turn 15.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing as well with George. He's not following Fukuzumi in front. He's actually trying to get the car slightly to the right-hand or left-hand side, or depending on what type of corner we're going round, and that just gives his car a little bit of clean air, a little bit more of aerodynamics, and that helps the tyre look after the tyre without it sliding around. You'll see what I mean. Maybe he's probably going to make the pass, I think, here. Yeah,
here we go. This is for the lead of the race. He's already a 5-time winner this season. He's looking to make it 6, and now he's got the race lead. Through to the 1st place goes George Russell, past his old GP3 teammate Fukuzumi now. Just has to focus on his own race. ART in the lead, and remember, Russell started down in 5th place. The rain is forecast. Just looking out of the window, nothing obvious at this time. This is how Russell took the lead.
Yeah, again, just placed himself beautifully when he was going through from probably turn 15, and then just got it closer and closer. Knew he had DRS, and it was the perfect run that he had after turn 1 to get that DRS pass done into turn 2, which is exactly now.
So lap 5, Russell from 5th to 1st, exactly what Alexander Albon managed yesterday. And we've seen races won here from as low as 5th. That was Albon yesterday. Before in GP2, when they raced here, they had 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So it is possible to overtake around this circuit, at least in F2. And Albon now will focus on trying to get back. Remember, he's losing points. He said yesterday, when he was asked whether he could catch George Russell, he was saying it's going to be very difficult indeed. Right, let's go down to Rosanna in the pits.
Nick, what happened there? We heard you quite animated on the radio. I seem to think you think it's with Alessio.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly Laurandi's fault. I mean, he said it to me after when we got out of the car. He locked up. I don't really know what he was thinking first lap of the race. I mean, we weren't even side by side. He just completely missed the braking point, ruined my race. For me, I think I could have easily won this race. I went from P7, I was in P2. With the pace we had yesterday, we were matching the same pace as Alex, if not even a bit quicker. So this was my race to win after that start. And yeah, I'm quite pissed off, as you can imagine. Just an idiot move from Laurandi.
Understandably frustrated, thank you.
So Nicholas Latifi, not very pleased at all, nor would you expect him to be, Johnny.
No, exactly. And again, like he said, it's the first lap. You know the tyres are not going to be up to temperature. And as I said before, you're in slipstream as well with those cold tyres. The only thing that's going to happen is a lock-up. And once a lock-up happens, you're just going to drive into the back of the car in front.
This was a few moments ago. Alexander Albon getting up to 4th place, breezing past Antonio Fuoco. Nice move into turn 2.
Yeah, great move. And I think that's what we're going to see from this race, I think. We've got some real good drivers here that are really showing the class that they're trying to portray across to the F1 paddock there, and I think Alex has done a good job this year. So we know what happened with Lando joining McLaren. We've got George in a similar situation of maybe getting a seat somewhere in the paddock.
Possible chance of rain, 15 minutes.
Well, it's been exciting enough in the opening 6 laps, but in 15 minutes time, are we going to get some rain around the circuit? De Vries, who has an association with McLaren, there's a lot of simulation work trying to overtake the Ferrari Junior of Antonio Fuoco. Had a bit of a hairy moment here yesterday with Arjun Maini, which could have taken him out of the race. He managed to continue. Maini got a puncher. De Vries, for the moment, staying in 6th position. And Albon said that whenever George Russell has a bad weekend, these are the 2 main championship contenders now, he's always in the top 5, which might sound a little bit defeatist from Alex, but that is just plainly what we've seen this year from George Russell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like anything. We know that consistency is something that will
In front is much quicker than everyone, but everyone behind you is on the same pace.
Yeah, it's always a powerful thing to have, and again it just draws confidence to a driver, and then his abilities start to just get stronger and stronger, and that's exactly what we've seen, I think, from George Russell. Probably struggled a little bit in Bahrain, and then it all came back.
Here's De Vries looking to make the move to the inside of Fuoco. He does so. Markelov there as well at his home event. Foot to the floor, inside line. Fuoco will try and hang on around the outside. You can see the rear getting loose there, and Markelov has got past one. Is he lining up another? 2 cars in 2 corners for Artem Markelov. He's lighting up the sprint race once again, and he's up to 5th place.
I didn't see that one coming, but brilliant move. Just got that real momentum, and as he went in towards that turn 4, really did sort of launch it up the inside, but actually made the move stick. Brilliant stuff, brilliant bit of racing.
So it's flat to the floor from this point until you break at turn 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome job, mate. Keep it cool. Stay ahead of the race.
It's the slipstream now, because you're just carrying that speed all the way through, and very good to decide in a split second, this is mine, and it definitely was.
So here we go. This is 2nd and 3rd. Fukuzumi and Sergio Sette Camara surging clear now and taking 2nd place. Fukuzumi was told on the radio Russell is in a race of his own, everyone behind is on your pace. That's just not the case anymore. Things have changed in the last couple of laps, and Camera proving it there. The Carlin driver is up to second.
Yeah, great move there, and again, that's something we've seen from Seta Camera over the season. Race pace, concentration, always is very, very strong from the young lad, and I think it's something that we see maybe now in that clean air might have a chance, possibly, of closing that gap there to George Russell out in front.
He was very, very close indeed at the end of the race in France. The first race it was there when those two did battle, and Markelov has got himself into the top 5 from 11th on the grid. It's De Vries trying to come back with DRS, and Markelov offers a pretty obvious defence there before reverting to the racing line. And this was once again, you see Fuoco having the oversteering moment, and then that was masterful stuff from Artem Markelov.
Yeah, brilliant move. As you just, he does that last sort of swing out we didn't see from on board, but just a brilliant commitment there. And they were happy with that as well, weren't they?
Svetlana Strelnikova, the team principal of Russian time. Seen an awful lot of fireworks from Artem Markelov through the years, but once again, 2 cars in 2 corners, enough to bring joy to that pit wall. Understandably so for the Russian driver, who was so disappointed after yesterday. Remember, he did run in Formula 1 free practice run for Renault, and that was his first run for the team he's been associated since the start of the year as reserve driver.
Yeah. Looking at, this is Albon on board, 4th position. It's coming down actually to Fukuzumi. Lap times are, yeah, just that little bit better. Well, actually a second on that last lap, so it's a really good situation now for Alex to hopefully capitalise on the speed that he's got at the moment. But actually the lap time's interesting actually with George Russell and Seta Camera. It's Seta Camera at the moment who is faster than George by about 3/10 at the moment.
They will be slightly wary of the degradation because of what we saw of the soft tyre yesterday. Neither tyres that they've run, the super soft, they're only running the soft today. No mandatory pit stop like we had yesterday, but both tyres had to be managed. Right now, Albon has a lot more pace than another one who was a former teammate of Fukuzumi back in 2016. The ART team back then had De Vries, Fukuzumi, Albon and Leclerc. Quite a lineup when you consider where they're going to go. Albon now with the late move to the inside. Is he going to have the position? Fukuzumi didn't know he was there initially when he turned in. He knows now because Albon is up to the final place on the podium.
Yeah, brilliant move, and I think it's a situation of how these guys are looking after the tyres. I was saying about Seta Camera and George Russell at the front. George responded and has just got a 10th quicker than Seta Camera, and I think that is where you have to think and respond to what's happening around you. Just do enough to stay and have a gap, but then you have enough in your pocket to respond at the same time and say, yeah, you think you're catching me? Yeah, I've got something ready for you now. And he just put in a faster lap there.
So the man from Belo Horizonte in Brazil giving chase, but as Johnny says, he will be very, very disheartened to see that lap. So Albon up to 3rd position, up 5 places, strong from him. Here's Albon on the radio.
Keep going, well done.
So he will just be trying to get the hammer down and chase not only Seta Camera but Russell as well. Markelov really loving things in these conditions. He's getting very close to Fukuzumi, who, remember, did start from the reverse grid pole, but he just has to. The problem is when you're having to go offline, when you're having to offer defence, you're taking more out of the tyres all the time and going to dirtier parts of the racetrack.
Yeah, it's those marbles, you're absolutely right, Alex, that make such a big difference to the car. Almost makes it like a hoverboard in many respects, and takes a good few laps to actually get those marbles off, get back down to the real rubber that is there and heat it back up again. So you really have to be very careful here in Russia, because the marbles are pretty much all around the circuit.
So it's already been a difficult weekend for Lando Norris. It's about to get even worse. He's got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for being out of position on the formation lap. And here's Artem Markelov going past Fukuzumi in the braking zone. And Markelov gets himself up to 4th place as he goes through, and he will try to chase down. Here we go with Delatraz racing Roberto Merri. And that is for 10th position, just out of the points. And we can see Lando Norris, mentioned him a few moments ago, had the disaster of the pit stop yesterday. And this is what happened earlier on. This was coming round to the grid, forming up. And he's got a 10-second stop and go for forming up in the wrong position on the formation lap.
Yeah, so we see where he needs to stop.
So out of position. Does he go too far past? Or was that just the wrong spot?
I think it's just the wrong spot.
He's on the right-hand side of the grid of where he should have been, so it wasn't immediately obvious from that replay, but where he was, I thought he might have been too far forward in his box, but it wasn't that. He was on the right line. So Markelov is 4th, Albon is 3rd, Sergio Sede Camara in 2nd position. Our race leader, oh, Fukuzumi's off the road. That's going to give an opportunity to De Vries. There goes De Vries. And down to 6th place goes Fukuzumi. Up to 5th goes Nick De Vries, the Prema driver. Just a point of being told in my ear that he was out of position on the safety car line, not where he lined
where
up.
he stopped, okay. That makes a little bit more sense than, because I thought, well, looks all right. Looks to be in the right place, because it was Gunther in front of him, who was supposed to be in front of him.
And that just about puts the lid on his weekend, where he has fallen out of contention. Falling off the road a few moments ago was Fukuzumi, and that was how De Vries got past.
Yeah, and he's been struggling all the time. This is Norris, obviously coming through.
So Formula One bound.
Okay, mate, we need to box for a 10-second stop go. We need to box for a 10-second stop go for being out of position on the formation lap.
What do you mean? I didn't overtake anyone. I didn't do anything.
They're saying you were not in your position when you crossed safety car line 1.
Yeah, that's just because I didn't go straight to me.
So Norris understandably furious to have the penalty, the strongest penalty they can have, deployed by the stewards, other than black flagging, of course. There's the oil flag out there, or the slippery surface flag. Are we getting rain? Let's go down to Rosanna in the pit lane, because there seems to be quite a lot of rain out there.
Yes, it is. It's raining in the pit lane, and you can see little spots starting to appear on the road, on the asphalt, and the mechanics have been bringing out the wet tyres. So I'm not sure. It's drying, I think. Oh, we've seen a crash now. I'm just seeing. So yes, maybe this is going to see a lot of cars coming to the pit lane.
I can imagine why, because Nico Kari has gone off and the rain has arrived. We heard it earlier on, he's lost his front wing. That's on the racetrack, but it's so difficult for them to slither around. That's Norris coming through, having taken his penalty, but this could completely change the race here. You saw the slippery surface flag being waved, and this was Gunther a moment ago. Oh, that is how Kari pirouetted out of the race.
Yeah, it's on the curb on the AstroTurf, a little bit of rain on there. The moisture does not really agree with those slick tyres there. Just seeing a lock-in under braking
This
and
is
going
Russell
wide. Yeah,
getting close to the wall.
that's
surviving.
okay. Didn't hit anything, so that's absolutely fine. There was quite a bit of rain we could see in one of the shots, but I think it's going to be a very quick shower. It's going to make it a little bit difficult for these guys. Bit tricky conditions, of course.
So no one out in the pit lane. A reminder, we do not have an intermediate tyre in Formula 2.
I think you don't need to focus too much on the tyre with this condition. You can push as much as you can.
So who can live with the slippery surface? This is where the driver has to be on their instincts. How difficult is this as Fukuzumi goes off the road again to lose a position to Antonio Fogo? This is so tough for the drivers, Johnny.
It is, but it's a test. It's something that they've all done from their karting days all the way through their various formulas to get themselves here in F2, same as the guys in F1. So there is a skill. You've got to feel what's going on underneath you, and you start to have a little bit of a slide going on in the car. That normally is an indication of what is going to be coming probably at the next corner. So you just really got to be very aware of what the track is like underneath you and respond immediately to that. And then just watch if there are spots on your visor, for example. You can then think, well, once they've started to ease off, well, that means probably about half a lap's time, the track will be in a better position as well. But we can see the rain is actually quite hard
Rain should
around.
start to drop now. There should be less rain as it goes.
You're not wrong, the rain is coming down harder and harder, and Aitken has come to a stop. Has he had a spin in the similar position there? He is stranded in the middle of the racetrack. and that will bring out the yellow flags. Understandably, we've got the green flags being waved. Need to change that one. The virtual safety car is deployed. This is Aitken on the AstroTurf. That's where the moisture builds up, and round he goes.
Yeah, big time. I guess he may have stalled the car. That was quite close.
Very close indeed to the Arden.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
Yeah, he's flicked it. I think he was flicking it round. I think he's actually stalled it. And I think that flick was trying to get it in the right way to bump start it. But obviously not enough momentum.
So we have lost Kari, Latifi. We also saw Lorandi go out, and unsurprisingly, with the rain coming down, Aitken remaining in his car. And the marshals have ventured out onto the racetrack. Going to be brave to be a marshal. We have the virtual safety car to reduce the speed, and they are running to the delta time on their steering wheel right now.
Yeah, well, this is something actually as a driver, having this virtual safety car, it helps you because you don't have to push, don't have to get to that limit. So in many, many regards, I think George Russell would be quite relieved in these very, very tricky conditions that he's got a virtual safety car.
In the nicest possible way, he'll be delighted that his teammate has spun and brought out
Exactly.
the virtual safety car.
Thank you.
The Renault driver, young driver, Aitken, had a bit of a tough round, you have to say. No points yesterday, no points today. Carlin standing by with the wet tyres. It's coming down heavier, but you've heard on the radio they expect it to dry up. So if you can live with the conditions for the moment, it might dry up very quickly as the marshals get the ART out of the way. Looks very wet indeed down there. So we've got Campos thinking about a stop, MP thinking about a stop, Russian time as well. If you're outside the top 10, why not?
Why not indeed? Yes, sometimes it's worth a risk because the difference would be huge. You know, we're going to be talking about probably 10 seconds plus difference. So it'd be a really, really... Okay.
So Norris has rolled that dice. Sorry to cut across you.
That's okay. No. Worth a go.
Absolutely worth a go, considering he's had the 10-second stop-and-go penalty. The rain really coming down now as we go back to racing conditions. And of all the places, it's turn 13 that Russell needs to go for first.
Yeah, very much so. This is going to be the really tricky situations that these guys are going to be not wanting to lock up at all, not wanting to have to slide the car. Just build up the pace. Don't just go into it in a way that you've just been driving. So you have to sort of build up that speed to get yourself around. But with that change of tyre.
So De Vries has gone off the road. Fuoco getting past him. That is how difficult it is out there. ART are standing by. There's only one ART left in the race, but will they box the race leader? Yes,
we have to go forward. Box.
So in comes Russell, in comes Camera. Albon as well. Markelov will follow in. The leader's feeling the need to go to the full wet tyre.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity now for Lando to get this one lap to try and get himself right back into the thick of things.
So can he get those tyres? We are on board with Lando Norris, so it'll be interesting to see his progress. Remember, you've still got to bring the tyres up to temperature, and a fascinating twist. They don't normally pit in the sprint race. This is not a mandatory pit stop, this is a pit stop because it's time to put on the wet tyres. They couldn't live with the conditions. Albon has got out ahead again of Artem Markelov, and they have come out in the order that they went in.
Yeah, and again, that was follow my leader. There was the only way that these guys were going to have to sort of battle it. This will be interesting now because obviously in the wet conditions, sometimes the skill factor completely swaps around between drivers. So it'll be interesting to see what George, of course, Albon and Seta Camera are able to do because they're still together.
And Giotto has gone through. Giotto stayed out. He's not staying on the track though, is he? He's gone wide at turn 2, and he's currently in 4th position, trying to make it work. The others are bringing their temperatures up. He got out ahead of Camera. That did not last long under braking. And I don't think either tyre is right now. The slicks, well, it's very slippery indeed. And the full wet, is there enough water there? Here's your new race leader, and he's just about hanging on to it. Fuoco.
There is so much water. There is so much water.
There is for slicks, that's for sure. I definitely want the wet tyres on, I think, on the car at the moment.
It is. If this was Formula One, it would be definitely intermediate tyres going on, but they do not have those available. Fuoco leads this race by 7 seconds, and we didn't hear the instruction to stay out, but of course he's had to do that extra lap, and that will be costing him so much time. Russell, really important for ART to complete a strong pit stop. They did that. He's ahead of Sergio Sede Camera, and that is looking pretty precarious for Fuoco. This is on board with Alex Albon.
Yeah, just carried too much speed, bit of understeer, rear end kicked out, then made the safety route.
One place behind him, Artem Markelov doing exactly the same thing.
Indeed. And I was saying about probably 10 seconds, I reckon we're going to be talking about 20 seconds difference between slicks and wet. So it's the right choice, I think, for George there in the lead.
Oh, he's off the road again. Antonio Fuoco desperately trying to hang on to it. He needs the rain to stop right now, because remember, he's losing tyre temperature in those softs all the time, lighting up the rear. He's got his teammate in second place, but Charouz are determined to risk it, but there is Russell on the wet tyres, so it's a 1-2 at the moment for the Czech team, but how long will it last? Here comes the man who was leading when he came in for wet tyres, George Russell, and we're riding on board with him right now.
Yeah, again, just going to take his time, knows exactly what the situation is. Very thoughtful driver is George, and I think this would be a situation that hopefully the track will sort of stay in these wet conditions. But when we look at the commentary, it does seem as if it has eased off quite considerably.
And the rain really came out of nowhere. It was a look at the radar rather than out of the window job for the teams. Back to Fuoco.
It's impossible. The rain is fast on the radar. It will dry out.
Johnny, I think you're siding with his engineer.
Yeah, just concentrate with what's going on. Yes, it's tricky, but I would think that this will dry up very, very quickly.
This is for second place, George Russell with a better traction going past Louis Delatraz. And Delatraz just keeping it going, but if it does dry up, if they can keep it on the road, and right now they can't, the two drivers who were first and second, this was Markelov going off, they're going off on wets, they're going off on slicks. I think right now the wet is the best tyre, but if it does dry up, the race could come back to Charouz, who are standing by in the pit lane.
Yeah, well, it's quite warm, isn't it, actually? The ambient temperature is something that will really draw off that sort of dampness that we have. It's not really wet, is it, as such? It's just a little bit damp, and as the cars are circulating, of course, they will be able to draw that water off of the surface, and as I said before, I think it would dry fairly quickly, but you just got to keep yourself on track. It's worth a risk here.
So Fuoco's lead, which was 7 seconds, now 3.7 seconds, and here comes George Russell. So that was the right call for the top four. That's Delatraz losing a position, slick tyres versus wets, and Sergio Sede Camara goes up, and they are off at every single corner of the road. It is so difficult out there, and we're on board with Alexander Albon. Let's go down to Rosanna for an update on the conditions.
Yeah, I've never seen so many people checking to see if it's raining or not. All of the engineers on the Charouz pit wall have put their hand out to see if the rain is still falling. You can visibly see it still falling, but still they keep their drivers out. The mechanics, on the other hand, are waiting patiently.
So offering a defence for the lead, Antonio Fuoco, as Russell is half a second away. He's going to take the lead surely this time. There you go, it's going to be a change for the lead. Russell sweeps on by, and the switch to wet tyres has proven the right one. He was the leader when he came in. He's the leader now just a few laps later.
Yeah, well, it's eased the rain, but he hasn't stopped. So absolutely spot-on decision from George and most of the guys that were behind him, and of course the teams at the same time. Worth a risk with the slicks, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the wet tyres that are going to be the perfect scenario for these guys until the end of the race.
I think Fuoco is going to argue in the team briefing that it was not the right idea, but this was him going off at turn 2, and George Russell just applying the throttle. See how here you can hear how gently he was on the throttle there, as Delatraz, that's Fuoco rather, now with camera directly behind him. This is to retake second position. And he's got the better drive, he'll have the inside line, and now second place, wets versus slicks, and the battle won by the driver on the wet tyres.
Yeah, and you can look at Sede Camara's tyres, and they do look as if they are getting punished at the present time. But again, that wetness that is there, that dampness that is there, is still going to keep them cool enough, and they're still going to be faster than those slick tyres at the moment. Will it ease off enough? I don't think there's enough laps left for the guys on slicks to have a mighty comeback near the end of the race, but you never know.
You never know with Formula 2. Rule nothing out, given what we saw yesterday with Artem Markelov going from 19th to the lead in 7 laps. That was plainly ridiculous stuff. Hugely entertaining as he tried the alternate strategy. Now Alexander Albon, our winner from yesterday, and he gets the power down, and he takes third place.
Yeah, well, I think that was sort of an obvious thing that was going to come our way, to be honest. And now he's just going to sort of concentrate what's happening ahead, because now we have the sort of the top three following each other once again.
So they're in the 2 minutes, and in terms of lap times, Artem Markelov in 5th, and De Vries has caught him up, enjoying the conditions. We've seen Markelov go off the road a couple of times. Both of these guys are on the wet tyres, so this is going to be an actual battle for the first time in the last couple of laps as they go through the flat to the floor turn 1, and they come down to turn number 2.
Yeah, you can actually see Markelov as we look on that left rear, as we're looking at it. It's actually bald on the outside of the tyre. You can see the wear is huge.
Oh, he's gone off.
He's gone off. Not a surprise.
And he stayed ahead, so he's mastered rejoining the track in a pretty rapid way. De Vries, though, applying the pressure as Markelov chops across and maintains the position for the moment. This is 5th place, but with Fuoco's struggles, it could well be 4th. Fuoco just up the road there, you can see him in the distance. So lap 17, it's not been simple for George Russell, but he took the lead in the dry, he's taken the lead in the wet, and now he has to hope that it doesn't dry out. But interesting that you mentioned about the grooves being worn away there. We're on board with Lando Norris, and same sort of wear there. Here we go against Arjun Maini into the penultimate corner of the racetrack. So he makes the move, and afterwards he got the puncher on the right-hand side there, right rear.
What a awful weekend to have things like this. Everything has just gone completely wrong for Lando there. Horrible, frustrating.
Okay, mate, yeah, just pull over to the inside of the track.
Well, I think 2019 can't come soon enough. It has gone wrong for Lando Norris, who led. We've only had 2 championship leaders all year. That man was one of them. George Russell took that lead halfway through the season. He's maintained it ever since, and everything that could have gone wrong this weekend has gone wrong. He's had the penalties, he's had the difficult pit stop, and Lando Norris is out of this race. The other Carlin is in 2nd, and the track is now clear with him being wheeled away. Here's Fuoco on the slicks, Markelov on the wets, and De Vries closing in on the pair of them.
Yeah, and again, get Markelov all over the curve there, but that's actually paid dividends for him there to just get that little extra bit of drive coming out of the second last corner to make the move stick.
So down to 6th place goes De Vries, Markelov up to 4th, De Vries 5th, but De Vries now with designs on 4th place in the second and final race of the weekend. The penultimate sprint race of the year, going deep to the inside line goes De Vries. Will Markelov make the corner this time? Fuoco trying to come back, but he seems a little bit happier in the last few corners, Fuoco. It's just different parts of the racetrack, different grip levels.
Yeah, I think we're right on that cusp now of the slicks and these sort of wet tyres, but of course the guys are going to have to...
Drivers on wet are overheating rear tyres, so look after cooling down the rear tyres as much as possible.
And that's a very hard thing to do when you've got worn wet tyres on a drying track. So that's something that the guys are going to have. This is going to be an awful situation for these guys to drive these cars. It'll be moving all over the place. Continue around the lap. There we go.
That's how he got the puncher.
Yeah.
Maini on the inside, Norris on the outside. That's the moment he felt it, having made the move. And Norris, who momentarily at least had got himself up to 14th position, is a retirement from this race, along with Aitken, Kari, Latifi and Lorandi at the very start of the race. Lap 18, here we go then with Markelov and De Vries still tight together. DRS being used for just a quick, wasn't confident to use it all the way through that corner, was he, De Vries? He's applied it again, same thing, not using it anywhere near as much in the dry. Probably a wise move as well. De Vries applying the pressure. McLaren junior driver, he's been associated with the team for a long time. He's seen Lando Norris come into the junior team setup and beat him to a Formula 1 seat, and he is just focusing on Markelov ahead in the battle for 4th. Looks a lot more confident in these conditions.
Yeah, doing slightly different lines. It seems to be Markelov is using what I would say is the classic dry line at the same time. So it's interesting to see that sometimes going offline, off where the rubber has been laid on the circuit, is actually not the place to be. It seems to be Markelov is still using the racing line, and then it's De Vries again who's got that sort of nice drive as we go around turn 1 towards turn 2.
De Vries building up now to 186 miles an hour, 300 kilometers with the DRS. Markelov knows it, tries to offer a defense, nothing between the two of them into the braking zone, and De Vries knew he wasn't clear there, has to open the line for the time being, but did he manage to get through on the road, off the road? Off the road is the answer. He disappeared and he returns, still behind Artem Markelov. This was getting very, very tasty into the braking zone.
Yeah, sort of got ahead, didn't quite let the car roll enough into the corner. Of course, then actually you can see why, because he just carried too much speed into the corner itself. But Markelov there, I have to say, put the car in the right place, and that made it that much more difficult for De Vries there.
So Russell has, as you can see, a 7.7 second lead. The closest battle we are looking at it right now, Markelov versus De Vries. Here's Arjun Maini after that contact with Norris a few laps ago into the pits to change the nose. He will still keep running in this race, so we still have 15 out there, still on the wet tyre. And the reason for that is that the guys on slicks, Fuoco and Delatraz, are still in the 2-minute 17s. Our race leader in the 2-minute 9 seconds laps.
Yeah, and again you go to George Russell there, you know, he's doing 2.9, he's a second quicker than the next nearest driver out there, and I think that's very impressive as well, with a man who's got a comfortable lead, but he's still pushing and keeping that sort of, I don't know, that mindset that he needs to keep the consistency, which he's doing very, very well once again.
So the incident will be investigated. Could be a grid drop for Arjun Maini for that contact. Would be slightly harsh though, so no more than 3 places, I would reckon. We've got 3 laps to go. Well, these guys are not quite there yet. Russell has come across the line 8 seconds ahead of Camera, who's going to return to the podium as long as he can keep it out of the barriers. Camera, I said, he's been so consistent all year long. This would be his 9th podium in Formula 2.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens with De Vries this time around, to see round turn 1, going to get that DRS, get the drive. Will he be able to stick it up the inside? Markelov once again goes to the inside, and he's not quite close enough.
And he had good drive off that final corner. That really worked for Artem Markelov, just hoping that something happens to one of the drivers ahead of him. He would love to be on his home race podium, but he's struggling at the moment to hang on to 4th.
Well, he went so wide actually on the exit. I think his right rear went on the AstroTurf so wide, and then of course there's the marbles. And when he was trying to get back onto the racing line, that's where we saw him really fighting to keep the car on the track.
So penultimate lap of the race. And we've got Markelov trying to hang on, but better drive for De Vries this time. He gets his foot to the floor and he's disappearing past Markelov, who doesn't want to give it up, but he doesn't have a choice. De Vries is up to 4th place.
Yeah, well, it was always De Vries had the speed, and we can see just Markelov there. That rear is spinning up a lot, overheating those tyres, and I think De Vries there has been very, very clever, just doing enough to put himself in the right position at the right time, because he can see Markelov is struggling so much.
So Markelov will just bring it home. He's got a big advantage to Merry, who is in 6th position. Fukuzumi, who started this race from reverse grid pole, who is going to score points. And Fuoco, still continuing on those slick tyres, has dropped now down to 8th. Remember, he was the race leader when this man came in with everyone else to pit for wet tyres. And he is about to go on to the final lap of the race. On lap 20, about to go on to lap 21. And he is 5.8 kilometres, 3.6 miles away from victory number 6 of the season.
And I hope with these results that George is getting, we're going to see this boy in F1. I think he deserves it.
I think he's shown us enough this year in Formula 2.
Big time.
Absolutely exemplary. Of course, we've got the driver 3rd in the points battle, Lando Norris, going to McLaren. He is a huge talent. We can't wait to see him, but surely we've got to have a chance for George to be there as well.
I hope so. It'd be a crime if that wasn't the case. And again, we're going a bit further back here. Alex Albon has actually raised his game, putting Sete Camera under pressure on this final lap. Can he do it?
He will try at great pace in the dry. Remember, it's drying up with every lap that they run.
Allez, last stop, let's get him.
Easier said than done, but Albon is giving it absolutely everything. He's about a second away at the moment. Remember, they do have the use of DRS. We saw it being used on the last lap in GP3. Can Albon use DRS down to turn 13 on the last lap of the Formula 2 weekend?
Well, if he keeps this situation he's in at the moment, yes, he will be able to use that. But it's putting Seta Camera under pressure on these final sort of few corners. This is sort of turn 8 and 9 and then to 10, which is obviously the DRS straight towards turn 13.
10 is the one that Seta Camera cannot afford an error. He hasn't got an error, slight kick off the corner, but nothing that's going to cause him any sort of drama. There's the DRS for Alexander Albon, the Thai driver, putting the Brazilian under enormous pressure now. But he's not going to be close enough into the braking zone, and Camera, if he gets it right to the final sector of the lap, is going to hang on to second place.
Yeah, but the way these tyres are, it is so easy to make just a little mistake. And this is really probably where Alex is going to have his only chance if Seta gets this corner wrong. Turn 15, but we go to George Russell in towards second last corners.
So he hasn't got far to go. He controlled it in the dry. He took the lead again in the wet. George Russell once again wins in Formula 2 in 2018. A superb victory for him, and it's going to be second place for Sergio Seta Camera. Alexander Albon returns to the podium for the second time this weekend. And it was wet, it was dry, it was entertaining, but George Russell very much has one hand on the championship trophy.
Very much so, and well deserved, you know, controlled everything, did exactly what he needed to do, had one or two sort of offs, but hey, that was what was going on around this racetrack in those very, very difficult conditions. George Russell, well done, buddy.
Yes, man. Yes, guys. So proud of you, mate. Well, we deserve that. Yes. Awesome.
Great drive, great drive.
Wow.